Welkom bij dit Next Innovate webinar over AODocs Document Management. In de komende 10 minuten, 15 minuten leggen we je uit wat nou eigenlijk de toegevoegde waarde is van AODocs. Want we kennen AODocs wellicht van Team Drives, maar het kan nog veel meer, want ja, met de huidige functionaliteit van Google Team Drives maakt het dat stukje een klein beetje overbodig. Maar het kan dus meer. En dat is document management, of eigenlijk zelfs een complete workflow process. Nou, daarover zullen we, weliswaar in het Engels, door AODocs zelf het een en ander laten vertellen. Eerst zullen ze in een aantal minuten door een aantal slides heen lopen en vervolgens duiken we gewoon rechtstreeks in een demo die de Google Drive interface laat zien met een klein laagje daarbovenop. Ik denk in ieder geval interessant om te weten en nou, ik hoop dat je er wat aan hebt. Alessandro, please go ahead.
Thank you, Bart. So first of all, we are going to say what is AODocs. AODocs is a document management solution, an enterprise document management solution, natively built on top of G Suite and fully integrated in Google Drive. As a consequence, we bring all the features that you see at the left of the screen, so workflow, metadata and tagging, check-in, check-out, and advanced security and versioning documents in Drive, faceless search, and so on, to Google. So you are going to benefit of the single sign-on. So once you log in your Google account, you are logged in AODocs. Your files are still in Drive, so in terms of storage, nothing will change. You can use AODocs from the same Drive UI, so with the same user experience. And then we bring other features like Office files collaboration and application integration with the main enterprise softwares like SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, and so on. We are a quite young company with offices all around the world. Our head office is in San Francisco, as you can see here, and 780 customers from all around the world, so every size, industry as well. And more than 2 million AODocs users in the Google marketplace. Just to give you some references of AODocs, you can see here some of the main companies around the world. Air Liquide, for example, is the largest gas industrial supplier, and we provide them the business workflow and the team folder part. You can see Woolworths, the largest retailer in Australia, using AODocs, or Whirlpool, one of the largest manufacturers in Europe and US, Cabinet Office as part of the UK government. So they use AODocs to control and make their documents safe. UNFPA as part of the United Nations, so even no-profit organizations work with AODocs, New York Times, and last but not least, you see Google. So Google is our customer. They are using AODocs to manage the workflow in the legal department and also to manage their documents in the data centers. You can see here at the bottom of the screen the two main pillars. Google Drive, which you know quite well, Team Drive, which you're going to use for the company ownership of files and simplified team level sharing. And so how AODocs is positioning himself? You see that AODocs is on top of those two pillars as a business application platform. And thanks to AODocs, you're going to automate your business processes like IT, legal, HR, operations, and marketing processes. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, so we'll now continue. Oh, ik zal het even in het Nederlands zeggen natuurlijk, met een demo. En deze zal gegeven worden door François, waar het natuurlijk echt om gaat. En wat je eigenlijk ziet hier aan AODocs, is dus dat het niet zomaar een partij is, zelfs door Google zelf gebruikt. En ook een zogenaamde recommended app. En dat betekent niet alleen dat het betrouwbaar is, maar met name ook dat het dus zich ook aanpast aan eventuele updates door Google zelf. En dat is natuurlijk altijd wel belangrijk in het kader van kiezen van third-party extensions. François, please take it away.
Thank you, Bart. I'm going to show you now how you can leverage AODocs in order to manage your documents lifecycle within the Google Drive interface. I'm currently working in Google Drive inside an AODocs folder, which is named Demo SF Contract, in which I've added recently a document, a Google file titled Trademark Agreement. When that file was added to the folder, it inherited from a metadata card that is available from the Google Drive interface. this metadata card is composed of 3 sections. The first one is the workflow section, and it's currently locked because I didn't fill in all the mandatory metadata. The second section contains system metadata that are filled in by default and cannot be changed, such as the creation date and the creator of the document, the last modification, and the last update author. The third section contains the custom metadata that have been configured by the administrators of the folder I'm working on. We can see here that there are around 8 fields. For each of those fields, the administrators can define what's the title, so the blue label you can see. The administrators will also be able to define what's the type of value that is expected from the end users. So for the product category, for instance, we might not want our end users to type in the values for that metadata because they might do mistakes or not know what the correct value is. So for that example, we provide them with a drop-down list. So the user can select insurance, for instance. When the user selects insurance, we provide the user with a sub list of value that are only relevant for insurance. So if the user selects, instead of insurance, group policy on the first level, then we provide the user different values at the bottom. So we can build hierarchical structures using the drop-down list. The matter assigned to metadata is what is called a person field, which means that it only accepts email addresses and will suggest the users from the domain. And we have also 2 date fields that are mandatory. You can see that they are mandatory because they've got a little asterisk at the end. And if you don't fill them in, then the system won't let you save. If you try to save, it says that the field is mandatory. After the user has filled in at least all the mandatory metadata, then he can leverage the description field at the bottom, which is a rich text editor where the user can input any valuable comment and eventually save the document. After I save the document, we can see that the workflow status section has been unlocked. So we see the status is currently 01 draft. And that's up to the administrators, once again, to define what are the different workflow states the documents will go through, and also how one document can go from one state to another. So if you don't want to name it 01 draft, but simply draft or initial state, that's up to the folder administrators. In that example, the workflow has been configured so that the original creator of the document, which is me in that example, is able to click on a button that says send for approval to legal team in order for the document to go to the following state. Once again, this is entirely up to the folder administrators. If you want the button to say send for approval or just submit, that's feasible. So I can click on the button, and after the document is actually submitted, I can add a short message. And eventually submit the document. The workflow status has been updated. It's now to legal team review. And we have now 2 buttons, approve and reject. As an administrator of that folder, I can see all the buttons and I'm playing all the roles, but the regular end user wouldn't see those buttons. Once you've submitted your document for approval, there's nothing you can do. It's up to the persons in charge to decide whether the document should be approved or rejected. Let's switch to Alice's inbox, because Alice is part of the legal team, and she just received an email notification. This email notification has been entirely configured by the folder administrators, who can define what the subject of the email should be. They can use anchors or placeholders in order to insert dynamic values within the email. You can notice here that this first part of the subject is the actual title of my document, Trademark Agreement, April 2017. The administrators can also change what's the sender display name. Also, the sender email cannot be changed. It is possible to change the display name of the sender. And you can change it to whatever you want. In addition to this, and in addition to defining who receives the email and when, the administrators can configure the body of the email. They can write down the text they need, insert in dynamic values and link. We can see here we have the title of the document once again, as well as the email address of the user who sent it for approval, and the comment that the user added when sending the document for approval. We have also a table with the list of the metadata, the custom ones, a link to open the file, and the workflow buttons available at the bottom of the email so that Alice is able to approve or reject the trademark agreement from Gmail, on the web browser, using her computer, or using the Gmail application on the mobile. In that example, of course, it's a trademark agreement and Alice is part of the legal team, so she would not approve or reject a document without reading it. So Alice is able to click the file to open it in a new tab. And depending on the way the workflow has been configured, Alice will have either view or edit access on the document. Every time the document goes to a different workflow state, it is possible to define what are the permissions that should be applied on the document. A typical use case is that as long as the document is in the draft state, only the document creator can review it and make changes to the document. But as soon as the document's been submitted for approval, then the creator loses edit access and becomes a basic reader, while the person in charge of approving can view and or edit. In that example, we see that Alice is able to make modifications to the document. For instance, you could make the title bigger. From the Google editor, she's also able to open the metadata card in order to review the workflow status, review the metadata, and change them if needed. And she'll be able to approve or reject the document from the Google document editor. Alice is also able to review the tasks she's got from Google Drive. So I can open a new tab and access the Google Drive interface. From there, I'll be able to open the folder that I was working with. This folder is available from the AODocs folder picker, which lists all the folders that I've got access to. I can open the contracts folder I've been working on. So we can see the trademark agreement April 2017 is there. And from Google Drive, Alice has a workflow button with the number 3 written on it. It means that within that folder, she's involved in the workflow and she's got currently 3 tasks, which means she's got 3 documents that she needs to act on. We can see that she's got 1 document in draft, so that's her draft, and she's got 2 documents that are pending her review. She can select the trademark agreement, once again review and update the metadata if needed, and then approve or reject the document. Let's approve it, and then submit. Let's get back to my original account. If I open once again the metadata card of the trademark agreement, we'll see that the workflow status is now approved contracts. So the document's been potentially published across the organization in read mode to a large audience, and there are no workflow buttons anymore. So there are no manual transitions anymore, but AODocs allows you to also define automated or automatic transitions. We can cheat in that example since I'm an administrator, and this is not something a regular end user could do. We're going to change the next review date, and instead of waiting for October the 1st, we're going to change that date and make the next review date today. When I save the document, the system will automatically check what's the value for the next review date and transition the document from approved contracts to expired contracts. So this is really useful to manage the automatic renewal or expiration of the documents. And one can even mix the manual transitions and the automated transitions. We could say that when Alice has to approve or reject a contract, she's got 7 days to do it. If the document stays for 7 days in the pending review workflow status, then the document will automatically be rejected. That's a possibility. So this was an overview of the workflow capabilities that AODocs brings to Google Drive. AODocs also provides extra option for searching and browsing the documents. The idea is to leverage the metadata that have been filled in by the user. A first way to reuse the metadata is through the workflow. We've just seen it using the next review date. The workflow could also leverage the metadata by sending the document to a different approver based on the business unit, for instance. If the business unit is A, then person 1 has to approve. If business unit is B, then person 2 has to approve. It can also be done with amount for invoices. If the amount of the invoice is superior to 10,000 euros, then only the account is below 10,000 euros, and only the accounting team has to approve. But if it's above, both the accounting team and the financial director have to approve. So these are the kind of workflow you can implement, and that will leverage the metadata. Another way of leveraging the metadata is through the AODocs interface. To access the AODocs interface, simply click the folder and open it with AODocs. This will take the user to the AODocs interface, which provides the same content. The folder structure that is available on my screen is exactly the same that is available in Google Drive. The modifications that are done in Google Drive will be reflected in the AODocs interface, as well as the other way around. The advantage of using the AODocs interface is, first of all, the search. When you perform a search in the Google Drive interface, the system will search for the keyword in the file title and in the file content, if it's a Google document, if it's an Office file, a PDF, or an image. When you do a search in the AODocs interface, the system will search for the keyword in the file title, the file content, again as in Drive, but also in the file metadata. So that's a more powerful search. Also, from the AODocs interface, the administrators of the folders are able to configure different views. The view that we're looking at is the mirror view of what we have in Google Drive, which means the same folder structure and so on. However, we can also decide that the users should be able to view all the contracts according to the business unit. If I access this second view, we have here the exact same list of documents, except they are organized according to their business unit. The business unit list you can see on the left-hand side is actually the list of metadata that the users could select when they were filling in the document metadata. One end user could say, I just want to see the documents for which the business unit is Alpha Plus, and use a filter in order to say, well, only the documents that have been assigned to Alice, for instance. The user could also run a search at the top in order to restrict the number of documents that are displayed on screen. So the idea is to make it easy for the user to go from a list of 100 documents down to a handful of them. Also, the administrator, in addition to defining what metadata values should be available on the left, what metadata should be available as a filter at the top, they can define what columns should be available in the view, in the table. So that's also something dedicated to the end user, so that the user doesn't have to actually open the document to know who's the creator, what's the state, what's the matter open date, and so on. So everything is done here in order to make sure the user can easily access the information. Lastly, administrators are also able to provide pre-filtered views. For instance, I've got a view that says My Contracts, which will only show the documents for which I'm the original creator. A last view is the Valid Contracts, which will show only the documents that are currently in the approved contract state. So what you might have noticed now is that the key principle of AODocs document management consists in having the user filling in a metadata form configured by the administrators, so that the values of those metadata can then be leveraged in order to manage the document lifecycle through the workflow and provide easy way to search, browse, and filter the document lists for the end users. A last feature that I want to show you is the ability to save emails into the AODocs folders. To do so, I'm going to switch to my Gmail inbox, and I will use one of the email examples I've got at the bottom. This is an email that was sent by Alice in April last year. There's some text in the body of the email and 2 attachments. Thanks to the AODocs Chrome extension that is called the AODocs Smart Bar, I can see an AODocs button that will allow me to import this email into the AODocs folder. When I click the button, AODocs will provide me with first the choice of the destination folder. So I'm going to type in contracts, which will provide me with the folder that we've been working with. Once I select the target folder, the system lets me choose whether I want to keep the email body as a Google document, or if I don't want to keep the email body. So for the sake of the example, I'm going to keep the body of the email. The third option allows me to choose what attachments I want to keep. So I can choose one, none, or all of the attachments. And in that example, I'm going to select them all. Finally, I can choose to import this email as a subfolder within the folder structure of the contracts AODocs folder, or if I want to import this at the root, and we're just going to import it at the root level. After AODocs uploads everything to Drive and imports everything into the correct folder, we'll be able to switch to Google Drive and reload the page. Well, actually, not even without reloading, we can see a new folder that's been created. This new folder name is the actual subject of the email. If we go back to Gmail, we can see it's trademark agreement with the date. When we enter the folder, we can see 3 documents: the PDF file and the Word document were the email attachments. And the Google document has been created and is used to store the content of the email. At the moment those documents have been added to the folder, the end users will be able to edit the metadata and send through the workflow and so on. So that was a quick overview of the AODocs capabilities within the Google Drive and the Gmail interfaces.
Oké, thank you François. Dit zou het in principe moeten zeggen. Heb je nog vragen of ben je benieuwd hoe dit kan werken? We hebben een aantal klanten die hier inmiddels mee werken. En nou ja, het kan dus eigenlijk een hele efficiënte manier zijn en ook wel tijds- en geldbesparend. Met name als je het vergelijkt met andere tooling die hier ook voor op de markt beschikbaar is. Nou, heb je vragen? Geef even een comment op deze post of contact ons natuurlijk eventjes. Bedankt voor het kijken.